next is the executive plenary session, Advancing Manufacturing and Logistics. Our next session, we will delve into the transformative power of digital adoption. Our speaker will take us into factors that influences continuous adoption of technology in this rapid evolving landscape. They also address the critical topics that attract top talent and building essential partnership to achieve growth goals. At the end of the session, don't worry, there's Q&A opportunity if you'd like to throw any questions on them, at anything that they brought up. But of course, please welcome Mr. Prateek Pashine from Maxis, Chief Enterprise Business Officer. Give him a round of applause, everybody, for my big boss. And of course, with him together, we'd like to invite Wan Hashimah Wan Salleh from MIDA, Malaysian Investment Development Authority. Wan Hashimah is also the Executive Director, Manufacturing Development with MIDA. All right, that round of applause, of course. Together with them, we also like to invite Ms. Eileen Tan from Aqina Farm. Eileen currently serves as the Head of Business Development and Marketing Division at Aqina Farm, where she leads initiatives to expand Aqina Farm market presence and foster strategic partnership. Last but not least, we have here from ABB Malaysia, Laurent Maillefer. Right? Laurent has been in Malaysia for 14 years already, with roles covering the Asia-Pacific region, and he currently heads the robotic and discrete automation business of ABB in Malaysia. Please give them a round of applause. But right before we start, we have a general announcement to make. For the owner of PHF 7222, just give you a heads up, your lights are on. I recommend if you could turn it off. All right, back to over to you, Mr. Prateek.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. And Jeff, thank you very much for setting the tone for this afternoon. I learned few things, and I think what Jeff talked about sets the stage for what we're going to discuss. This is not going to be just 3 and 4 of us talking about it. We need participation from all of you because we want to hear from you. And I think, I believe shared learning is the best form of learning, learning from peers in the industry, learning from what each one of you are doing in your company, and copy pasting it to the extent possible, adapting it, but kind of leveraging from the shared learnings that we've all had. Few years back, and I think we saw Jeff talking about a digital journey starting 2010 when SAP was first kind of adopted by Duo Pharma. Few years back, a CEO of a big banking group in Europe was asked, "What business are you in?" And something that he said actually stayed with me all these years. And he said, "We are a technology company with a banking license." He didn't say we are a bank. He said we are a technology company with a banking license. And if you think about it, each one of us are technology company with a logistics license, technology company with a farming expertise, technology company with a heavy machinery expertise. So I think at the gut of every business is technology. And I think we can't belabor more how important, critical technology is. One example from Jeff's presentation, he talked about telehealth. I remember in my days, and my wife's a dentist, there is a concept, and I come from India, so I'm going to use that example, of a medical representative. This is a gentleman, typically a gentleman, who goes doctor to doctor to talk about what medicines I have and how to make sure that my brand of medicine is recommended to the patients. That medical representative who goes around clinics has got replaced by telehealth, where instead of the person, it's now being done over video conferencing or app. And I think that's how technology, doesn't matter which industry you take, is getting adopted. And I think that's a great example of how in the industry everybody is transforming. Another thing, one cue that I got from Jeff was, I think he defined technology digitalization as 3 T's, and this is my interpretation of that. One is having a clear technology roadmap, and I think Jeff talked about up to 2030, what are the things that they're going to do. The second, I think he talked about, and it at least was there on the slide, was trials. Experiment. If we don't experiment, things, we will never know what works and what doesn't. So experimentation is critical to a technology transformation. And the third he talked about is culture. How do you, yes, you may have the best technologies, best solutions, but how are you transforming internally? And I think Jeff left us with a lot of insights on technology. So before we get started, what I'm going to ask all of you, and since we are a mobile phone company at our heart, mobile phone needs to be used for the rest of the session. So please take out your mobile phones and please dive in right away, and please
Can you influence the question?
request you to get your phone and get the responses on what do you think are the biggest barriers for digital transformation in a company?
Can I see the QR code again?
Can we go back to the QR code, please? Stay on the QR code for a bit longer. Yeah, some more time. Okay, now you can go to the responses. It's interesting, and implementation cost, we talked about culture, right? That seems to be popping up right there, resistance to change, culture shift. A little surprised at leadership commitment. I often hear that leadership, it has to start at the top. Unless you have the leadership commitment, it becomes difficult. But thank you for your feedback, and that brings us to our panel's first question. If you were to select one of these, can we go back? One of these, Laurent, pick one. What would be your one biggest barrier to digital transformation?
Well, I think what you mentioned earlier, that the leadership commitment, I'm not picking up on you there, trying to put it as number one, but definitely it needs to start with the commitment from the top so that the entire company knows what is the strategy, which line to follow in order to have a certain logic in the way things are done. I have seen examples where companies are trying to move along in digitalization by giving incentive KPI to their employees to find solution that could help improve the overall process or the quality of the product or the throughput of the machine. But each one is looking at their own particular line, production line, with an individual point of view without looking at the big picture. And you might end up with sub-optimizing things. You know, for that particular line, this is a great solution. But if you look at the impact on the overall production assets that you have, for example, that might not be the best. Or suddenly you can double your production, but upstream they are not able to give you twice the number of parts that you need. So you have doubled your production, but upstream they cannot help you. So the commitment from leadership is important to give a clear guideline where we want to go, what are the priorities, what we want to achieve first, so that everyone in the company understands where they should focus and make sure that you have alignment all along the chain. So that if you optimize your own line to have double the capacity in production, your friend upstream is able to deliver double the parts to you as well.
So Laurent, and I'm going to pick on that because exactly, and see, I think that's the beauty of this, right? What you face in manufacturing, I'm facing the similar thing in telecom. And it kind of crosses borders across industries. We have a team which outbounds calls customer when their contract is coming up for renewal. And we integrated it into auto dialer. So now instead of the customer agent dialing each number and trying, it was auto dialer. Now what happened was the auto dialer improved the efficiency of these customer agents dramatically. But the upstream activity, which was to send the campaigns, they did not have enough campaigns. So now the guy said, I have run out of calls to make because you're not giving me enough campaigns because I'm making more calls. So exactly, how do you make sure that each part of your business works to truly bring about?
And downstream, if you call me 6 times, I don't pick up.
True. Eileen, if you had to pick one of these as the biggest barrier, what would that be?
I think I'm speaking from SME and mid-sized company perspective. So I would say high implementation cost is definitely one of the biggest concern for us, speaking from experience. For us, I think when for SMEs and a lot of mid-sized companies, we have limited resources. So these limited resources, coupled with conflicting priorities, sometimes and most of the time, the decisions we make actually are based on short or medium-term gains. So it needs to have a very immediate ROI for us to prioritize a decision. And I do think that ROI is kind of like an effect, and the other parts of this questionnaire is actually the cost of the ROI. For example, I would like to touch on a little bit about resistance to change as well, because that is one of the things that we face most in our company. Aqina Farm is actually an agriculture industry, and we work with a lot of farmers. So all of these farmers have been with us for 30 years. They have started with us since raising in a traditional open barn. In order for them to adopt to new technologies, it was really a very, very difficult thing to do. Even from digitalizing the documentation process, and we are not even talking about AI farming and all these things. It was very, very difficult to convince them, because to them, it actually seems extra work. So all of these things, even though when we implement all of this technology, all this very fancy technology, it actually doesn't translate to a good ROI, because we were unable to fully utilize the technology. There were a lot of gaps in between. So I would say they are all very, very, they are all very big barriers when it comes to SME and mid-sized companies. Yep.
Thank you. And Sheikh Wan Hashimah, you meet companies, you help companies grow their digital agenda, grow their efficiency, grow their business. What do you hear from companies is the biggest challenge towards digital transformation?
Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon, everybody. For those who didn't know MIDA, actually, MIDA, we develop the industry and the services sector in Malaysia. Based on our experience developing the industry in Malaysia, including the services, when we are dealing with the SMEs until the multinational, we noticed that for multinational, it's quite easy when it comes to adopting digital transformation, because it comes with the territory. They have to adopt this digital transformation. But when it comes to SME or
mid-sized
practices, to convince the owner, the management of the company is quite challenging. Because first of all, we noticed that sometimes their establishment exists like 30, 40 years ago. So they are complacent already with what they have. So when we want to talk with them about the future changes that needs to be done, and what are the facilities that the government offer for them to transfer into this digital they are not fully aware of what are the facilities that we offer to them. So we noticed that the challenge is more to convince the leaders or the management to go into the digital transformation. And then the rest, when it comes to, for example, the cost involved or the ROI, is if you look at the, what are the facilities, the one that we offer, for example, in terms of incentive or the reinvestment allowance under IRB, part of the equipment to go into this digital transformation, you actually can claim under our incentive or under the RA. It's just like we noticed that, like in MIDA, when we are evaluating certain project, we are dealing with the technical people. And then when it comes to this claiming part, the finance is supposed to come in because they are dealing with the claiming part. So, like when we are dealing with the technical part during the assessment, the message to claim that it's available to claim it not being transferred to the finance team. So this is the thing, the one that we noticed. So to answer that thing is more to convince the leaders to go into this digital transformation. And the rest, it will come naturally because there's a provision from the government for you to go into this transformation.
So continuing with that, would you like to share with the audience here, what are the couple of facilities that MIDA extends or schemes that MIDA extends to promote digital transformation which these companies can avail of?
In general, first of all, under our Promotion Investment Act, company can be considered for the incentive, pioneer status or ITA, where some of the equipments or things that you need to go into this digital transformation can be parked inside there. And then beside that incentive, after you enjoy the incentive under our PIA, you can enjoy another set of incentive under reinvestment allowance directly with IRB. But in MIDA alone, we introduced what we call the automation capital allowance since 10 years ago for companies to invest and can claim. Now that ACA being extended until 2027 up to 10 million ringgit offered for the manufacturing and services sector. Earlier on, we offer for the manufacturing sector from 2015 until year 2000. And budget year 2000, we include the services for company to can claim until 10 million.
So I'm going to ask the audience here, very quickly, show of hands. A lot of you said high implementation cost, including Eileen. And here we heard about schemes and incentives and claims. So how many of you have claimed from MIDA? None? Then we can't complain about the high implementation cost. There are funds available. I think what I would urge all of you to spend some time with Chief Wan Hashimah after this session and find out more about how your companies can avail of in supporting this digital transformation. There are schemes, incentives that MIDA offers. So I think one of the great takeaways from this session can be 500,000 ringgit sponsorship from MIDA. Who knows? Yeah. In industry, I mean, I was quite puzzled, intrigued, and I later on learned the answer to how does pineapple and chicken go together? But that's what you beautifully integrated. There are various technologies and digital solutions available. If you were to name one of them that you have leveraged in your business of farming, what would that be for the audience benefit?
I think there are a lot of aspects to it. So first is definitely the ERP system. I think that is kind of like the bread and butter of every businesses. I mean, we started 30 years ago and everything was manual back then. And I think in 2015 was when we started, developing our own ERP system. So that was very crucial in how we improve a lot of operational efficiencies and also data accuracy. So I think that's very important. So And throughout the years, as technology get more and more advanced, there are a lot of, agri-tech solutions that came out. For example, the first thing that was popularized in poultry farming was, the modern closed house system. It's automated instead of the traditional open barn. So there are IoT sensors, that detects the environment, ammonia levels, humidity, temperature, and it actually helps to regulate the temperature or whatever necessary requirement for the environment. So it basically automates, for example, ventilation when it gets too hot or gets too humid. These are the standard things in the poultry farming industry. And then we talk about, then we progress into AI. And that's something that I'll be sharing more later in my session. So there are a lot of, technology when it comes to AI, which is predicting the weight of the chicken before we harvest the chicken. So that is something that is quite new and has been implemented in neighboring countries such as Thailand or even European countries. But in Malaysia, there is not a lot of successful stories yet simply because we do not have the readiness to adopt this technology. And I think all in all, in agriculture, we need to cover a lot of aspects. One is the ERP system, which covers the financial aspect, the administrative aspect, and there is also the agriculture solution where you can look for innovative ways to enhance your productivity.
Thank you. Laurent, Chief Wan Hashimah said, for MNCs it comes easy, digital transformation, and you are from one of those MNCs. And I'm sure before Malaysia you've had experience in other geographies. Is there anything specific to Malaysia that you see being a hurdle or a barrier or a roadblock to digital or Industry 4.0 in manufacturing?
Well, I think understanding what's out there as solutions, that was mentioned by Wan Jeffrey earlier as well. There's thousands of solutions out there. You have people approaching you and trying to sell, their software or their equipment as the best equipment. And if as a small company you don't have the understanding as to what is good for you, what is not good to you, you need assistance. I think the government has done has been helping a lot here in doing this assessment, helping companies to go through a bit of soul searching and analyzing what they need and understand what they need and establish a roadmap and a plan in that direction. So that is helpful in bringing outsiders who understand what is available and then can tailor-made it for your own particular business or your own particular type of industry. That's important because I can still see a lot of people struggling with the first step as to really understanding. And there's a lot of conferences available and people join, but then you're overwhelmed with information. And so to have the guidance and someone that help you to do the first step, I think is good. And the assessment that the government has put in place in regards to automation, I think that helps a lot of companies in going through. And it was also mentioned by Wan Jeffrey, and you mentioned it as well, from the commitment from the leadership, and we see sometimes, especially in smaller companies, that a bit of a generation gap. Mm-hmm. You might have the younger generation who have seen it and understand that that's the way to go, but the keys to the bank account is still with the parents or the father or the mother, and when they go and try to ask for the budget, it's like, come on, for 20 years we have run it this way, we'll continue for another 10 years. And it's tough for the younger generation to get through. So that's also one challenge that I can see. Maybe more related to the fact that you have a lot of businesses that go through multiple generations, and you need to have a proper understanding between the generation to move forward.
Thank you. And Laurent, you brought about a very important point, and that brings me to the next actually poll, and we want audience response to that. This is a interesting and difficult journey of digital transformation. There are various factors that come into play, but one of the critical factors is which is the right technology, how do I go about implementing, do I implement this or that, and sometimes those programs can be quite expensive, and if you make a mistake in choosing the right solution, it can take the company backward multiple years. So it's important in this journey to find a good partner, and while there is MIDA, we also as Maxis kind of try to be that digital enabler for companies when they're seeking solutions. So that brings me to the next question, and please take out your mobile phones to answer what you think you look for when you're evaluating a partner for your digital transformation. What is of these, which one do you think is the most important? QR code please, do we have, or automatically it's coming? Okay. Okay, we'll give a couple of minutes for the QR code. Yeah. Okay, let's see the responses, and not surprising, they're all stacked close to each other because you can't really pick one at the cost of the other two. You do seek all of these. You want somebody who has comprehensive service offering, somebody who's proven it. You can't do it with somebody who does not have credentials. And you also, different industries have different requirements. So something that fits, that's custom to you, that's tuned to you, rather than something which is, generic. So any thoughts on this? Would you have picked, apart from these three, anything else that you would think is important in selecting a potential digital transformation partner or partners? Eileen?
I think when choosing a vendor, especially in Malaysia, and especially if you are in a traditional industry, it's important for your vendors to understand your culture. Okay, because when you are in a very traditional industry, we're mostly, dealing with people who are not very tech savvy, or people who are generally very traditional. So, we have worked with a lot of vendors that are from overseas and are, I would say, rather fancy, but and it was a good solution. But when it comes to adaptation, that becomes a problem because the vendor itself couldn't communicate with my team, and that creates a very big gap in communication. So I think it is also very important for your vendors' willingness, to educate and provide training to people who are not necessarily as familiar with technology. I think that's one thing that was part of our learnings as well. You can have a very fancy solution, but if your vendor is not willing to understand your culture, or willing to provide trainings and to accommodate to your team, I think that would bridge that would create a very big gap when it comes to adaptation.
Thank you, Laurent. Would you have picked anything else other than these?
No, but just to pick on what Eileen just mentioned, I think it's important for both parties because if you have misalignment at the beginning of a project, misunderstanding, at the end of the day, both parties will suffer.
Yeah.
Because you will claim you told me, I will claim that no, we told you, and at the end of the day, no one is happy. So it's very important to have this. And even if you mentioned coming from overseas, I mean, for me as a representative of a multinational company, it is important that we have a localization as well to understand what people are used to locally, what do they need, what do they familiar to work with, and not just come with a bulldozer solution from outside and try to force it through. I'm happy to see that the end-to-end support is there on the first place, because that's part of the challenge and the difficulties. As you have, many solution providers coming to you from different parts of the world at very different price level, it makes it even harder to understand which one should I pick. Should I go with the guy with dirt cheap, or should I go mid-range or top range, and what are the differences? And often you actually end up burning your finger with the end-to-end support, because depending where are your priorities, if you focus solely on ROI and you want the shortest payback possible, so you go for the cheapest solution, you might end up paying a higher price, because when something breaks down, no one is there to support you. And if it's your first project and your people are not accustomed or used to the technology, then you end up in trouble. So I'm happy to see it there, but definitely the communication at the beginning of the project is very important.
Thank you. Wan Hashimah, would you have any other input other than this?
We have to go back to basic, actually. Let's say if you are a manufacturing company, you just need to study when it comes to your own operation, you have study on the process basis. So you just need to identify where do you need to upgrade your operation. Because Laurent mentioned that when it comes to machinery or software or technology, it's available. It's just a matter of doing it. So what normally, based on our experience, we normally advise company, just study your current operations and look at your peers in the industry, identify who already successful in implementing it, ask them what did they do right and what went wrong, then you can learn from them for you to improve further. Because most of the time, people are afraid to start something that you didn't know, which involve money. So, based on our experience, we always advise company. In fact, we always tell the company that if you have any problem in your operation, for example, just engage with MIDA, because in MIDA we have 7 industries divisions, and we have 5 services divisions that always can provide some assistance to you. Let's say if you identify certain things that you want to do, and if we feel that we have the contact for you to engage, then we will provide the contact for you to do that.
Yes, thank you. And I think you made a very important point, something I very, very strongly believe in. Especially mid-sized companies, SMBs, you don't have the talent pool, you don't have experts in your organization. I think the best form of risk mitigation is learning from peers. What are other companies in your industry doing, talking to them? I think you can save significant costs. And I think even if you're competing, in general, if you reach out to your peer group, they will tell you what to look out for, what to watch out for. And I think one can save costly mistakes and costly investments by just learning. And I would urge all of you to kind of reach out to your industry peers, besides partners like us, MIDA, to kind of learn what did they do, what did they prioritize, what were the criterias before selecting a partner. So please do reach out. And that's the other thing I think from beginning with Jeff, and each one of you have mentioned this, is about talent. How do we create a capable digital talent in the organization? What are your thoughts on how ABB is doing it to create this pool of digital talent? The Minister for the Digital mentioned few weeks back that the amount of AI engineers that Malaysia is going to need, we are 1/8 or 1/10 of that in terms of capable AI engineers. And I think while AI is one topic, you could take any topic, and that's what you will hear talent deficit. So what is ABB doing in a couple of sentences on bridging this digital talent divide?
Well, I will pick up on AI because for quite some time, ABB has been monitoring AI, but not really taking a proactive approach to AI. Just maybe a look and see attitude at first. And then we realized that some of our competitors are already coming up with solutions, with products related or based on AI solution, and we started to realize that we are a little bit behind. And so that comes with what we discussed before. First, there has been an acknowledgement from the top management that this is happening, and at the board level, they decided that one particular board member should become the AI ambassador for the company and preach AI inside the company. It happens that we have a board member who is very well versed with AI, so that was easy for him to do that. But it started with spreading the message inside the company. And that's internal webinar, seminar, workshop at different level of management, e-learnings. And now we have established a routine where there are working group within the company exchanging ideas on different topics, but where AI can be used in different part or processes. And so you have those working group, global working groups. And it's on a voluntary basis. So there's no restriction. If someone from Malaysia wants to participate and join a group with European, Americans, Australians, that's possible. But so the idea is just to push people to come up with solution proposals around specific topic, and also make everyone aware of what's available out there, so that you can then convert it into a solution for the company. And now we start to come up with our own solution. Of course, when you realize that you don't have it in-house, then you can also look at M&A and acquire company that have already developed particular knowledge. For example, in robotic vision, AI applied for vision systems is very important. And so we have acquired a few companies who were already specialized in there. That's another way to catch up as well.
Thank you. Eileen, moving from a MNC to a homegrown, if you will, family-built business, what are the things that you're doing to bridge the digital divide? And I'll ask a slightly dangerous question. Feel free to say no comment. We heard about generation and mindset gap. Have you encountered that as well in your business? So feel free to not answer the second one, but and if you have successfully overcome that, advice to a lot of business entrepreneurs who are second generation or third generation, some tips on how to navigate that.
Sure. Based on my limited knowledge and experience. Actually, as you guys know, we are an agriculture company. We are not a tech company. We are regular farmers who go to ladang every day, raise chickens and plant pineapples. So when it comes to tech, it's actually a very unfamiliar territory for us. How we actually started, when we hear about something new, it's always from conferences or exhibitions, or when we Google and we hear from peers. So that's how we collect information. And I think until like 2 years ago, the most advanced IT department we have, administrative person who manages our websites or check the Wi-Fi. They are not necessarily programmers or people who are very expertise in IT. So agriculture industry itself is originally what we consider is the 3D industry. It's dirty, dangerous, and difficult. So it is already hard to get talents in because we are often located in rural areas. When we talk about technology, it's usually people who are in the younger generation, and everybody actually wants to work in the urban areas. They don't want to come to, like my kampong area to work. So how we started is we actually started working with external vendors first, and that is how we learn progressively on how we can enhance our internal digitalization journey. So throughout the process, our internal staff have actually learned a lot, and we actually kind of just nurture our internal staff who are interested to step into this division. And to be honest, truthfully, we are still having a hard time recruiting people, not just in the technology department, but just come to work in a farm. And this is something that one thing that I feel very strongly is to nurture whoever is interested in this division and be open, and willing to learn and accept new ideas when it comes to technology advancement. I think that is something that, from our perspective, we would like to share. Yeah.
Thank you. And are you consciously skipping the second question?
No. Actually, to be honest, because this is a family business, I would say that my parents and my uncles and aunties are more open than us. So that is one of the advantage in Aqina Farm, is that we are always willing to try new things, to innovate, even though I guess that might be one of our downfalls as well, because we love trying new things. And we actually have a lot of failed projects that I will not mention here. But I guess innovation, it comes from, success comes from trying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any specific initiatives MIDA is driving to bridge this digital talent divide, and how can companies here leverage from some of those programs?
In MIDA, we have a division called Talent Division.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is actually in bridging what the industry wants and connect them with the TVET institutions or universities, in fact with HRDF also. We have few programs where we call all the universities, and we bring our expert from our division to tell the universities and TVET what are the things that's going to be happening in the future, so that they can prepare for our graduates. And the second one also, when it comes to companies' requirement, we've done also the career or job fair, the internship kind of thing. So we have done everything. In fact, even MIDA also, we are part of the organization that have to go into the transformation also.
Absolutely.
And we ourselves in MIDA also, we take initiative to train our staff to be prepared, because we are dealing with all the industries. We have to be ahead of the companies. So just to answer your second question, even MIDA also, we have like the old generation in MIDA like myself. And we hire the young generations also. It's all about training them, tell them that they are important working in MIDA for the country. Because we have to explain to them, we have to give them a purpose lah, basically. That working in MIDA is actually serving a country and develop the economy. Of course, some they didn't like the job in MIDA, for example, for them is too boring or whatsoever, then it's their choice to decide on their future. But most of the time, we notice that many stays in MIDA because we train them properly, we give exposure, we tell them that there are matters for the country. That's it.
You know, this digital divide has been my favorite topic over the years, and I have met, I would easily say, 1,000, 1,500 CXOs, CEOs on this topic. And I've spent time learning what various companies are doing. And I think one thing that has stayed with me, and I'll urge that to be followed by, I think, irrespective of the industry you're in, something that one company has done well is the concept of reverse mentoring. Nestle has done a global program on reverse mentoring because your kid is far more smarter than you, which means that the young generation who is joining today are far more digitally savvy than some of the old ones like us. So how do not just we train them, but how do they train the oldies in the company? And I think that's one of the things companies have leveraged, because how do you bridge that digital divide is not just recruiting new engineers, but how do you make that permeate all levels of the organization? So something to think about. Are you getting your youngsters to train you? An important thing to think about. And that brings me to the last question, and I'm going to again ask all of you to take out your mobile phones. And that is, if you have to give one word, not sentence, one word of advice to your fellow colleagues, business leaders on what to do for digital transformation, what would that word be? We have the QR code. Can we get the QR code? Yeah, I think we've got scans done. We can go to the answers. Automation. Do change. Be brave. Trust staff. Listen. Need more money. Please. Skydive is an interesting thing, and so is just go for it.
It's
practical.
a leftover from the first question.
Change or be changed. Explore. AI. Open to new ideas. Priorities. Future. Innovate. Invest. Openness. Mentality needs to change. Okay, let them come, keep them coming while I ask Laurent one word of advice to business leaders in this journey of digital transformation. What should they do? What should they be?
Well, I suggested the do, just do it. But that's easy to say. But in more than one word, start with small steps, what you can digest easily. And it's as simple as, if people in your factories are still running around with pieces of paper to write down data, okay, move to an Excel sheet or a tablet and then centralize it to a Drive or a SharePoint and collect this information, so that they don't have to waste time in the evening or someone else wasting time just copying and bringing it all together. So those are very small things that you can do very easily. And then step by step, I think automatically you will discover that, oh, now we did this, we can do that next. And you just move on and move, and you will have more and more complex things to solve, but in a way that you fully understand, you know what is the logic behind it, and it's also easier to motivate your people to do it, because once they realize, oh yeah, he gave me a tablet and I don't have to spend an hour writing things down in the evening anymore, people understand the benefits of what you're trying to do, and then they might come by themselves
With newer
hopefully
ideas.
with new ideas and suggestion how to move further. Yeah.
Eileen, one word of advice?
I would say priorities, because from my perspective and our perspective, for us, we have limited resources. So I think when it comes to digitalization or when you talk about technology, sometimes for us it can sound like a very daunting concept because often it means high implementation costs, or we need to just from the finance department it just simply means that they need to spend a lot of money. So I would say pick your potion, identify what is your bottleneck and what is causing the most inefficiencies in your operation, and just target that. If this is, you just embark on your digitalization journey, I would say do it one by one, and don't rush over it, because change management is very, very important. If, let's say, your staff or your team is not used to technology, or because it often means that moving away from established routine, I think it's very important to get your employee to buy in when it comes to digitalization. Otherwise, you would end up with a lot of underutilization of technology, and that would often mean that you won't generate a good ROI for this investment.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Wan Hashimah, one word of advice to companies?
No, there's no other way actually, because based on our experience, when we evaluate the automation capital allowance, that we noticed that by adopting this digital transformation or automation, we can see that we see at the result by implementing certain things. So we can see that the output increase, the mistake or defect reduce, man-hour reduce, then labor also reduce. So these are the things that, because the bottom line for the company is you want to make profit, right? So by implementing certain things, you can see the result based on our assessment. So for us, MIDA, that's why we have certain facilities to assist company to go into this digital transformation. You have
absolutely, and I think that's why we wanted to put in one word, because see, it's a big topic, but if you have to nail it, I think all of you are saying it, there's no choice of not doing it. You can't sit idle, you have to do it. How you go about doing it, how do you prioritize, that becomes important. But I think the clear narrative, clear action is you have no option but to embrace technology, to leverage, to produce more, to do it efficiently, to get better customer satisfaction, all of it. So thank you very much, each one of you. We've been a great panel. And thank you, audience. You've been a wonderful audience. You've been participating, responding. So we come to the last section of the session, which is any questions from you, anything that you'd like to ask our panel or our fellow colleagues, anything that's bothering you in this digital journey, please ask right away. Mics are available. Don't be shy, and please do ask. Anyone? Guess, yeah, there is one at the back. Can we get the mic there?
Yes. A very good afternoon to everybody.
Good
okay.
Afternoon.
Since Ms. Eileen talking about agriculture, the Kak talking about talking about the from MIDA, sorry.
Wan, I just call me Wan.
Cik Wan, sorry, Kak Wan talking about the from MIDA, and then Mr. Laurent, and then also Mr. Prateek. Okay, I just want to ask for something. Okay, the tourism industry, because I'm now doing about the tourism industry, and it's agricultural tourism, very related to Eileen. Okay, agricultural tourism, agro-tourism. And then I'm from Penang, Balik Pulau. Okay, so I like to ask about what does the tourism industry cuts into all the other industries, in the communications, in the agriculture, in MIDA, as well as and all the developments. To what extent does this AI will be able to help in the tourism industry, which will be able to churn in more tourists, especially in Penang, like as a tourism hub. And then more of rural tourism, such as in Balik Pulau or maybe Seberang Perai. How do we make the tourists come to Penang to be more popular, to enhance the tourism industry? I think this is about the gist of the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any one of you, before I go?
I think it's a very simple and yet very hard question, actually. Let me explain, because I was in the one of the services division before called KPH, that responsible for the tourism, which include the hotel and tourism project. And we noticed that digitalization, let's say if you want to bring more tourists to Penang, I think first of all, many tourists know about Penang already more than know Malaysia, if you were to ask me. Some tourists know Penang more than Malaysia, because I was based in MIDA Milan before. When we asked them about Malaysia, it seemed like they know Singapore, they know Thailand, but they didn't know in between, but somehow they know Penang. So it's all, when we talk about digitalization, now everybody is having their handphone, right? It's all about searching only. Let's say if you want to bring more tourists to Penang, you have to liaise with somebody, so that if somebody search either about heritage or about even about business opportunities that relate to tourism, you need to develop that platform, so that if everybody Google worldwide, because we are talking about worldwide, they know they have to come to Penang.
So to add to what Wan Hashimah said, I'm going to give you AI application in tourism, and I'm going to draw upon Macau. How many of you know Macau as a country? Some statistics: 2 million population, 25 million annual visitors. This ratio cannot be beaten by any country. 2 million staying population, 25 million annual, which means another 2 million every month tourists. You know what they have done? The tourism and the government of Macau, and easily replicable in Penang. They have done two things. One is an app for a tourist. Okay? But how does this leverage AI? Now if there are so many people who are coming to visit, they are all going to the specific points. Everybody wants to go to Penang Hill, everybody wants to go to the Chinese temple, everybody wants to go to Batu Ferringhi. They, through real-time camera feeds, navigate tourists to say, you want to go to Batu Ferringhi, don't go now, there's a lot of traffic. They navigate it to other parts of the location, because at the end of the day, you also want to have a great experience. You want to tell your friends that, you know, when I went to Penang, I got to see this 15. You don't want to be in a Nasi Kandar Barkatu, right? Where there's a queue. So AI through real-time crowd monitoring, Tourism Macau is using that to actually shepherd tourists to say, you know, you have these 15 things, you list down, and we'll kind of navigate you what's the best time, and real-time alerts on what to do, where to go. So that's a classic example of taking crowdsourced data from your cameras and feeding it to the tourist, so that the tourist has a great experience.
And I think, sorry, just let me share. Actually, this is an idea that I have for my own business, but I haven't realized it yet, but I'm willing to share it with you. So when you talk about, you know, we have dabbled with the idea of agro-tourism before, And nowadays, there's a lot of gimmicks on, buy a plot or buy a tree, things like that. So instead of selling souvenirs, you can sell this particular crop or particular plant that they can monitor online based on real-time feed. And, by the time it's ready to harvest, you can actually pack this and courier it to them. So this is something that, another form of souvenir that is less traditional. I think that's one thing, how we can incorporate digitalization and all this social media and all these things, that these are the things that can be incorporated in your marketing.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. I hope you get an opportunity to spend time with your colleagues, your peers here, and the panel. So thank you once again for coming over. Our Maxis colleagues are here to share some of the examples of digitalization that Maxis is enabling our companies, our customers do. So please partake in visiting some of those right at the back, some of the demonstration and use cases. And otherwise, thank you and have a very good evening.